Oh, hey, I got some questions from Colleen, and so I thought I would start with just a little bit of a history of Shore Aquatic Center, which back
This is
in
Super Yacht News with East Sisman.
oh, hold on, sorry.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It is
There we go. Sorry about that. Back in 2009, the city of Port Angeles decided during that economic downturn that running a pool was not in their best interest. And because aquatic centers don't hold their own in terms of finances, you have to subsidize aquatic centers. And so they thought for financial reasons that the aquatic center, they would close. And part of that thought process was it was built in 1961 and had never gone through any major upgrades since 2009. And so everything was fairly old and fairly dated and really inefficient. And so they decided to close it down. The citizens within the community, along with at least Sherry Kidd on the city council, really fought against them doing that. And it got down to a point where they decided, they told the community, well, if you want the pool, you guys can run it. And so the city and the county went together and put a ballot proposition to establish what they call a metropolitan park district. And that district has levy authority, which means they can collect property tax, and that would help subsidize the pool. They put that on the ballot, and it passed by, I'm thinking it was over 60%, which, I mean, in this day and age, getting over 60%.
Steve, are you there? You look frozen.
I'll text him and see.
Malfunction.
Was every 7 years.
Oh, there he is.
And
Steve.
with the Metropolitan Park District, am I unstable?
Yes, a little bit. So the last probably paragraph that you had mentioned, we could not hear. Maybe you could just repeat what you just recently went over.
Okay, so Metropolitan Park Districts has levy authority and it doesn't expire. So you don't have to go back to the voters every 7 years. The problem that Sark and Squim had was they're what they call just a recreation and park district, which means they have to go back to the voters every 7 years to reauthorize their levy. And so the advantages of a metro park district is you get to keep your levy. It's more stable. And the biggest difference that means is you can borrow money and no one's afraid to lend you money because you have a guaranteed levy authority. And so in 2009, it passed and the city goes, here's your keys, have at it. And so what that Metro Park District established was a board which included 2 city council people, 2 county commissioners, and then they appointed a citizen at large. And so in 2009, we took receipt of the pool and had a board. And then it was kind of like, okay, now what do we do? Starting from scratch. And I had been retired for a while and realized that very few people in the Northwest operate pools. I come from San Diego, where you can throw a rock in any direction and hit a pool. Up here, they're not as common. And so we didn't have anybody in our community that really knew how to operate a pool. And so I told them, as long as I can not work full time, I'll take this project on. So I started in 2009 with the pool, and we started operating it. And one of the nice things about being a metropolitan park district, and especially when you just have one thing, we just had an aquatic center. So a lot of times we're called a pool district because that's all we have is a pool. You don't have to have the budget battle like a city does. And generally recreation loses the budget battle when you're dealing with, the city also has a fire department, a police department, health services, all things that are very important. And so generally Parks and Rec doesn't win that battle. And so now we have our own budget. We don't have to battle against anybody else. And so we started in 2009 and started operating. First thing we did was, just kind of did some surveying to see kind of what we inherited. I kind of term it, we were given a used Volkswagen and said, okay, go at it, drive it around. And so we needed to find out where we were at. So that took about a year, and eventually we started upgrading and replacing things to update the facility. One of the advantages of being a small entity is my experience had been growing up in a family run construction. And what we did is build pools. And so we were able to operate the pool kind of like a family business, and apply more of the private sector business concepts of, really focusing on customer service, providing what your customers really want. And so we started to grow, and we started to increase users, and we got to the point around 2016 that it looked inevitable that we needed to expand. And so we started our expansion project. And the first thing we did is we wanted to go to the voters and say, hey, do you want to do this? Because we didn't want to go down that road if our citizens didn't want us to do this. And so we put a ballot initiative together, and this one actually passed by 73%, which was great, and a affirmation that we were headed in the right direction. And so in 2017, the ballot initiative passed, and we started in design phase and then started construction at the kind of the tail end of 2019. And it was a $20 million expansion project. And I think the biggest project I ever managed before this was about 3 million. So this was in a universe very unfamiliar to me, and a heavy lift. And thanks to Jessica and Virginia, who stayed on staff during the project, we were able to hang on and do really well, finishing the project in the middle of, we started in August of 2019, and then COVID hit that March. And thankfully we were far enough along in the project. A lot of supply issues, we had already ordered most things. And so COVID was a struggle, but it wasn't as much of a struggle as projects that came after us with supply issues. Then we finished up in about August of 2020 and opened up in, I believe, October, and have been open ever since. And one of the amazing things, and this is, my hat is off to our staff, is we opened during COVID. We had to do some interesting things like reservation system, limited capacity, and we figured those things out. but we've been open 7 days a week, 16 hours a day ever since. And that is an amazing feat. If you think about, like, now with staffing, a lot of restaurants are open 3, sometimes 4 days a week, and we're open 7 days, 16 hours a day. And so that's an amazing feat for staffing. And so that's about the brief history of it. I was going to show you, I'm going to share my screen again. I was going to show you a few numbers. I'm sure you guys all like numbers. Okay, let me see if I can get this to slideshow. This is our operational revenue. And as you can see, I got an arrow pointing at 2009 when we took over. And if you look over in 2015, you'll see a rise. That was when SARC closed, and then you'll see it dip down again. That's when SARC reopened as the YMCA. And then, as you can see, we didn't include 2019 and 2020 because we were closed. And then you can see in 21, we've about doubled our revenue from what we were in the old configuration. And we were projecting about a 40% increase. So doubling our revenue really far exceeded what we thought was even an optimistic projection. And you can see from attendance, when we took over, it was just a little bit under, about 50,000 people come a year. And that's individual use. So if someone comes every week, that would be 7. We don't count, unique people, but unique visits. And now we're approaching 140, roughly 140,000. If you think about it, our district includes the school district boundaries. So the Port Angeles School District is our boundaries. And that's kind of the boundaries that uses our pool. That's about 30 to 35,000 people. So in a district that has 35,000 and we're getting 130,000 plus user visits, that's a number I can't find anywhere in the state of Washington that has that type of user volume compared to population. That just means our pool is really important to our community and people really like to use it. And I'm gonna stop share. And maybe you can clue me in on any other questions that you want, or if anybody's.
Well, I noticed on one of your screens as you put it up, I was going to ask what your staffing levels currently are, if you have any job opportunities that are available. That's one of the questions currently. Okay,
well, I'll talk about that, and then I'm going to have Jessica talk real quick on that because she's kind of responsible for staffing.
Okay.
One of the great things about having an aquatic center in your community is it is a very classic job to be a first-time job. So high schoolers, even some college kids that, a lot of kids come to us and this is their first job. And so one of the cool things we get to do, Jessica may not think it's as cool, but we get to teach people how to be good employees. And because they're not going to stay, we have a stable management team, but the rest aren't going to stay. They're going to move on. And so we get to teach them all the basics that a good employee has, how to speak to people, how to answer the phone. We even teach them how to do laundry if they need, because we do lots of laundry. And so they learn a lot of skills, and then we get to send them out. if they don't leave after a while, then I get to sit down and have a conversation about life goals, because being a lifeguard should not be your end goal in life. And so in a lot of ways, I really like that model of using, having kids being their first time job here. One of the challenging things that they have to learn is actually giving instructions and commands to adults. So let's say you have this 15-year-old and an adult is not following the rules. That 15-year-old has to learn how to tell the adult not to do something or to do something correctly. And not every kid can get that, but most can learn how to do that. And that's always a challenging skill that we have to give them. Jessica, if you could just kind of share where we're at staffing wise and kind of what availabilities there are.
Hi, we have 75 employees right now, and we are obviously always looking for new staff because, like Steve said, we have a pretty high rollover rate as they come in and they leave. This summer, we're looking for summer camp counselors, lifeguards, swim instructors, front desk staff. So if you know anybody, regardless of their age, we're always willing to train or part-time jobs, and just apply at the front counter, or we have an application on our website. And we start
Jessica,
off. Yes.
Could you enter that
Sure.
link in the chat, please, in case anyone knows of anyone that would like to apply to join your team?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I like training the new staff. I know Steve thinks I don't, but it's fun to see them become, to grow up and to learn and like have a good representation from us as bosses, teaching them how to be good employees. So it's always nice to see as well. And we get a lot of people who poach our employees because they start out at the Shore Aquatic Center, and we've taught them, the basics of being an employee. And then we get lots of our members who are like, hey, come work for me in my doctor's office, or come do this for me, or you worked at the pool, so you'll be a good employee. So it's kind of a good feedback for us when they do try to take our employees.
Absolutely. Customer service is one of the key ingredients to a great employee and your staff, especially when we're working and dealing with the public. I have another question, and if anyone else has a question, please raise your hand or enter it in the chat. With the need for childcare in our county, Steve, what is the capacity that the level of capacity is provided at the Shore Aquatic Center? What are the hours? What are the ages range? And are you at full capacity, or are there any openings?
I will have Jessica handle this one.
We currently are at capacity in our childcare. We have after school 65 kids enrolled. And then we also have a morning preschool program. For the summer, during our summer camp program, we've gone up to 75 kids each day, and that's also at capacity. So if we could get more staff, we might be able to open up a few more spots, but capacity is reached for us, unfortunately. Our after school program runs from 2:00 in the afternoon when school lets out until 5:30 Monday through Friday. And then the summer camp program is 7:30 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. and they get 2 snacks and a lunch. And also they get to swim. That's one of the big draws for our program, is everyone goes through swimming lessons, and then we have free swim. So that's also a big wow factor that gets a lot of people signed up for our program. Did I answer all your questions?
Jessica, is there a waiting list?
There is a waiting list. I can put that information in the chat as well, who they can email about that and where the information is. And it never hurts to get on the waiting list, because they just will contact as they go. And if you don't respond, they go to the next person. So it doesn't hurt to be on there.
One of the things I want to mention, someone in chat was talking about hours and pay. We have people work everything from teaching 1 swim lesson a week, so an hour and a half a week, all the way up to full time. And so we have a lot of variety. And our pay is, we try to, because being a lifeguard is you're responsible for the welfare of the patrons that are at the pool. So it's not flipping burgers. And so we try to stay $1 above minimum wage at our starting pay for entry-level lifeguards. And that's hard because minimum wage has gone up pretty steeply in the last 2 to 3 years, but so far we've been able to stay about $1 ahead of minimum wage.
Steve, with the $20 million project, I don't know if I heard you say, but did the project come under budget? Or was it over budget?
Yeah, we were able to come under budget by about $1 million. And that was amazing. And so we took that savings. We didn't have we didn't have any reserves when we started the project. We were just taking enough levy to operate. And so we took that savings and put it into reserves for any future issues and if there's an economic downturn. And so it's nice that we had that savings because it kind of helped us build up a reserve that we have now.
So are there any lessons learned from the Public Works construction project?
Don't do a project during a pandemic. That would be the biggest lesson I learned because that was challenging. There's the project this size, there was so many people helping and supporting. Because generally a project this size would be like, would be done like a port district or a city. And, you have a finance department, you have an engineering department. There's a lot of things. Our project, we had me and Jessica, and so, we had to review all certified payrolls. And so it was overwhelming at times. But we were able to do that. I think probably one of the things we did that I was really glad is we built in a fairly heavy contingency on the project. And that was very helpful when COVID hit and some things were more expensive and some things weren't available. So you had to buy something else that was more expensive. And so having going into the project with a good contingency amount in the budget was very helpful.
Well, as you know, at our annual gala, the Shore Aquatic Center was named the Champion Award for the Nonprofit of the Year. And when we made the announcement, it had showed that you had 0 COVID outbreaks, both in the center to include the after-school care program. So what have you seen with regards currently with the status of COVID? How has that been since 2022 started?
Well, amazingly, aquatic centers in general, not just ours, but aquatic centers in general are they're kind of tailor-made for a COVID type of epidemic or pandemic. Because we have air within the facility that's very inhospitable to viruses because the air has a lot of there's chlorine in the air, which is why people sometimes don't like going into aquatic centers. And then we move air. We move all of our air out of our building every 8 minutes. And so we recirculate air an incredible amount, not because of COVID, but because we want that chlorinated air out of our building and bringing fresh in air all the time. And so, we didn't have any outbreaks as a result. I mean, we had staff that came down with COVID and patrons that had COVID, but none of it came from the aquatic center. And so that's been, that's an amazing feat for how long we're open and how many people are in there.
So like I mentioned before, on the screen, it was before you went to one of your slides, that the charting, it showed what your the pass cost is, what you guys offer. Can you or Jessica go over what that is as far as your entry fees are?
Yeah, let me get to that. Let's see here. Wait, Jessica, do you want to go over the?
Sure. So we're pretty affordable. We feel like adult general admission, anyone 18 and older, is $625, and that gets you in all day. And that's to take aerobics classes, lap swim, sit in the sauna. If you come in at 8 a.m., you can come back at 5 p.m. We'll give you a stamp or we'll give you a receipt. And then another general admission, youth, anyone aged 4 to 7, so 3 and under are free. That's $375. And that also includes anyone that's senior, disabled, or veteran for that rate. And then we do a family pass, which is a day entry for $16, so for 2 parents and 2 kids, it's cheaper than them paying a general admission for each person individually. We also have great things, the 12 visit pass. Those are really popular. It's 12 visits and you can do it as an individual, youth, or family. And then that gets you 12 visits to the facility, and those don't expire. So those can sit on your account. So we get a lot of people who live here part-time that purchase those. And then it just sits there and they're like, oh, well, I'm back, it's been 6 months and I still have my 12 visit pass, which is great. We also sell an annual pass, $360 for the adult, $212 for a youth, senior, veteran, and then $500 for a family. And our family annual passes have been very popular. We're getting a lot more families in just because of our expansion of the facility. We have 4 pools they can use. Kids can come and play. Mom and dad don't mind sitting in the water in 88 degrees, watching their kids play. It's kind of nice. And then we do a monthly billing as well if you don't want to pay the annual fee. And it's just having a card on file, and every month your card is charged. Adults $36, youth is $20.50, and a family is $46.50. So it's all affordable. We've compared ourselves to other aquatic centers around the state and in Oregon, and we haven't really found that we are above. We found that we're actually lower than most, but our patrons appreciate that. So, and we also provide scholarships too. So if anyone is having a hard time, we just had a family, their house burnt down. They filled out a scholarship application. We are able to lower their monthly bill for them as they're trying to rebuild everything. Also, if you've lost your job, or, if you have kids for scholarships for swim lessons, we do that. So you just have to fill out a form, provide the paperwork, and we pretty much approve everybody.
Looks like there's a couple questions in the chat. When is the best time to come when it's not terribly busy?
I'll have Jessica take that one.
It depends on what are you coming to lap swim or use the hot tub? AJ, I'm not sure.
Angela, would you like to answer that? That was Angela Jones's question.
And then the next doggy day swim, probably not until we close for construction again. That's a lot of dog hair on all of our pipes and filtration system. When we did the dog swim before we closed for construction, when we drained the pools, it was just covered in dog hair. It's not easy to get out. And then when all of that goes through your pipes, it's not a year-round event because we don't close for year maintenance like most outdoor pools do that do a doggy swim. So Steve would not be happy if he had to close every year for a week or two to clean everything out from all the dog hair and everything else the dogs bring in, unfortunately. How close are we to capacity? We could always expand our childcare. If we could have more space, that would be ideal because obviously there is a need. And then we are expanding our community programming. So we're offering more dryland classes, yoga, Tai Chi, conversational Spanish, and we're opening up some free programs for people to participate in. So eventually we're going to need more space, but right now we're just using what we have and making it work. Oh, lap swim. Best time to come for lap swim is after 6:15 a.m. Monday through Friday, because all the 5:30 people swim for 30 minutes and get out. Or if you come from 3 until 5 o'clock, 3 to 4, all 6 lap lanes are open. And then 4 to 5, 2 lap lanes are open while Swim Club only has 4 of the lanes. So that's another really good time. Or late at night before we close. Usually there's nobody in the lap lanes.
One of the advantages that we accomplished with our expansion project is we're able to allow all 6 lap lanes available most of all day long, whereas we used to have to share those lap lanes with other programs. And so we'd have 2, maybe 3 lap lanes over, but now we've got all 6 available. And for the most part, it's rare that I would see 2 people in a lap lane. So people kind of find their time niche where they know they can probably get a lap lane on their own. And so we used to have to 3, sometimes 4 people in a lap lane. And that always doesn't end well because not everybody swims straight. And so they would all run into each other. So it's nice having all 6 lap lanes open.
Steve, I know that the swim school district has a swim team. Does the Port Angeles school district have a swim team, and do they utilize the pool?
Yeah, so we have 2 groups that use the pool. We have the Port Angeles swim and dive team. We have the only diving board on the Olympic Peninsula. And so all the schools use us for their dive team if they have a dive team. And then we support the swim team from Port Angeles. And then we also have a swim club that runs year round that uses the pool for their program as well.
And so what time of year do you guys see the most tourism at the aquatic center?
We get a fair amount of people in the summer that come to shower at the pool, and then they realize, well, we should just use the pool. But they're usually camping, backpacking in the park, and they come out and they want a place to clean up, and so they come to the pool and they end up just using the pool. So we'll see that all summer long into the fall. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we get visitors year round. It's hard for us to kind of track that because you can just come in and pay cash to come in, and we don't ask where you're from. And so that one's a harder one for us to track. We have the same fee structure regardless of whether you're local or you're a visitor.
Mm-hmm. So does the Shore Aquatic Center partner with OMC on classes for individuals that might have heart conditions? As you know, water aerobics are extremely helpful with heart patients. And so I know that the YMC offers classes in regards to connecting to OMC. What does the Shore Aquatic Center do?
We have, when we develop our exercise classes and therapy classes, OMC's physical therapy department has participated in the setup. And we also have a national organization that helps develop our therapy and exercise classes. We're currently working with OMC to become one of their medical sites, and then they would be able to bill, because that's the struggle is how does OMC bill either Medicare or an insurance company for physical therapy that's done at our pool. And so we're working towards that. That's not a easy path, but we're working down that path. But we have a lot of people that come in and self-exercise. We have a pool pretty much dedicated to water exercise, water walking, water therapy. And there's times of the day that, there's 5 to 10 walkers just on the pool deck next to the steps where you're getting to the pool. One of the advantages of exercising in a pool is you get to take the weight off your joints, and you don't have fall issues. You don't have to worry about falling. And so our lazy river, which is used by kids all evening and after school, is used by exercisers before then, and they walk against the current. And so one of the reasons we did lazy river instead of a slide is that benefit of having multiple age groups being able to use it for different things versus a slide that's open a couple hours a day and only little kids use it. And so we have water walkers that are walking the lazy river. We have a therapy pool that people are exercising in, and our therapy pool is probably one of the busier pools that we have because there's people that are coming in, getting ready for surgery, post-surgery. One of the best parts of the job for me is I get to see someone who will come in a wheelchair and start using the pool and then graduate to a walker and then go to a cane and then come in on their own. And that's a great thing that we're able to provide something that gets their mobility back. And that's fun to see that process.
So what is the, for your swim classes, do you guys have infant classes and then they range all the way up to adult classes? And how many classes are you offering daily?
Jessica, you're up.
We offer starting at parent-child, and we do go up to teen adult classes. Daily, we do our swim lessons in a 2-day-a-week block currently. And so you get 8 lessons for 4 weeks, and they're 30 minutes each. Typically, in a class that's 6 years and under, which would be our preschool program, there's 4 students. And then in the older level classes, there are 6 students. That way, everyone gets ample amount of time and to work on their skills. For our preschool program and our parent-child, we do require that the parents be in the water. Parent-child always had to have a parent in the water, and then the preschool during COVID, you couldn't be too close to the kids, so we had to have parents in, and it's just worked well to have the parents participate now. So this upcoming session, we're doing registration actually yesterday and today. We're offering, I believe we have 12 classes available for this next session. If we had more swim instructors, we'd be able to offer more classes. And then we do that year round. We also offer private lessons, and those are any day of the week, as long as we have an instructor available, and they can work on anything from infants to, we have one woman who's 75 years old who's taking swim lessons because she's going to Hawaii and she wants to go snorkeling. So we're open to anybody, and we have a great variety of instructors. So if you need to learn how to swim or know someone else, have them come and talk to us. We'll put them in contact with Sarah. Group lessons are $40 or $44 for the month. And then private lessons are $25 for each individual lesson.
And how many lifeguards do you currently have on staff? And how many kids that have gone, or adults that have gone through their swimming lesson program, have taken the lifeguarding program to become lifeguards?
Ooh, I think so. Of our 75 employees, I would imagine that at least 55 are certified as a lifeguard. They're not all lifeguards currently, but we train like our after school staff. They become lifeguards just so they know how to react in an emergency. Some of our front desk staff, they're trained as lifeguards too, just because they want to take the class. Everyone who works here is trained in first aid, CPR, and how to assist in a rescue. Most of our lifeguards are kids that have gone through the swim lesson program, gone through swim team, on swim club, and they wanted to be a lifeguard. They wanted to work at the pool when they were older. So it's a really good promotion for us, you know, when you're asking them in swim lessons, what's your first job going to be? And they're like, I want to be a lifeguard, or I want to work Spark Squad, or I want to. So we're always kind of asking and putting, you know, that little tidbit in the back of their mind of like, when I'm old enough for a job, I can work at the pool. So.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yep.
Steve, I think one of the questions that Colleen had was, and I could see on the chart when you were looking at the revenues and how you've gained momentum in 2021 or 2022. So one of her questions was, are you able to support the bond payments, of course, and then when will the bond be paid off? Unless I missed you answering that question. Can you speak to that?
Yes, I can. I don't think I talked about that. And our payment is due at the end of this month. So we are, you know, a bond is essentially a mortgage. And our mortgage payment is $1 million a year. And so that's a hefty payment. And it's split into two payments. One's in June, one's in December. And to finance our project, we had several different loans that we did. We had a lot of grant money. We had almost $4 million in grant funds. And the rest we got loans for, several different type. The longest loan is 20 years, and we have some loans that are at the 10-year level. And so they don't all finish at the same time, but we will be making payments for a while.
And so I noticed that Steve had a question with regards to plans for expansion at the center. And I didn't hear, did Jessica say something about plans for expansion in the future?
I don't think we have the room to expand anymore, nor do I think we can afford to expand anymore. And so we're always looking for room for childcare. So when the school district central services building went up for sale, we looked at that. It was too expensive for us, and OMC bought it for a satellite facility for themselves. But we're always looking, especially for childcare. Our aquatic center is pretty adequately sized for our community. So I don't think we'll ever have issues of, hitting maximum capacity and not allowing people to swim. That in some ways that would be a great problem, but I think it's well sized for our community. It's not overbuilt, it's not underbuilt. And so I don't see us doing anything like that anytime soon.
Well, I personally have not taken the opportunity to visit, which I would love to come out and visit the facility and see all the expansion and what you guys have done. Only have seen the pictures that you showed in the video. We have about 10 minutes left. Is there anyone else on the call today, the chat, that has any more questions for both Steve or Jessica? And if not, Charisse has a question. Charisse, do you want to ask your question, or would you like me to do that? Or Steve, do you just want to read it and respond?
I'm reading it right now.
She says, I think about how so many of the pools were developed in the 1950s and the 1960s, and many of them are well beyond their capacity now. As you have the opportunity to build something new and prepare for the future, how to look forward and think about the preventative maintenance, etc.
Yeah, in our state, in the 60s, King County did a bond measure. It was called Forward Thrush or Forward. Yeah, I think it was Forward Thrush. And they built probably 20 aquatic centers throughout King County. And, aquatic centers lifespan is about, between remodels, about 25 years. Probably the full life of the facility is 50. And so they're all right there kind of at the end of their life. King County's strategy was, let's just give them to whoever's entity they're closest to. And so a lot of cities were gifted the aquatic center because King County didn't want to run them anymore. And so a lot of cities are in the predicament of, what do we do with this old aquatic center? And then there's communities. I got kind of roped into being the advisor on several aquatic centers that are trying to expand, build new. And so there's quite a few. Aquatic centers are very hard on things. You're not supposed to stick a warm body of water inside a building. And so you have to do a lot of things to counteract all that moisture that's inside the building. And so what Sharice is saying about preventative maintenance, that is so important to extend the life and so critical in the design phase of a facility if you want it to last very long. But there's opportunities for new aquatic centers that are going to be coming up. There's a couple on there's one on Whidbey Island, North Lake area. There's one on Fox Island, and one on one of the San Juan Islands that's currently being looked at.
Thank you, Steve. Well, once again, we really appreciate and we're very thankful to have you on our call today. As you guys can see in the chat, Jessica has entered the links for the employment links. And then we really appreciate that you guys offer scholarship to those families or individuals that are having a hardship at this time so that they have the opportunity to attend or, purchase a pass for the aquatic center. If there's anyone else that has a question, Steve has one. Oh no, I'm looking down at the bottom, sorry.
One of the things I'll say is one of our main mission statements is water safety. And that directly relates to kids. We have water all around us here on the peninsula. And so we want to teach as many kids how to swim as we possibly can. The CDC research has shown the more swim lessons you give, the less drownings you have in your community. And so we will never turn kids away for financial reasons for swim lessons. We'll find a way to pay for it. And so any kid that we want to teach every child how to swim.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Angela, you have your hand up. Do you have a question for Steve?
I do. I wanted to find out, were there stipulations to accepting the grant money and the bond money as far as maintaining, and did you have to have a plan in place?
Yes. One of the things I learned is when someone gives you money, there's always strings. No money doesn't have strings. And so some of the money we used, called a community development block grant that we used for building the part of our building that does childcare, had a heavy amount of strings attached that we still report on to make sure that the money that we were given is used for childcare and not something other than childcare. It's essentially all the other money, we've done the reporting. All that was done during the process, and we did have to give them, a fairly detailed way of how we were going to spend their money, and a detailed way of ensuring that we can pay them back.
Anyone else with a question? Thank you, Angela. Well, Steve and Jessica, we are super excited in our county for the new redevelopment of the Aquatic Center and how it is servicing not only the public for the offerings that you have, but also the expansion and the capabilities for the need for childcare in our community. So once again, we thank you for being on Coffee with Colleen. And I look forward to coming and visiting you guys here in the near future.
Great. Well, thanks for having us. I really appreciate the opportunity to kind of share what's going on at the pool.
Yes, and Colleen, I'm sure will view the Coffee with Colleen since we've recorded it. I forgot to hit record this morning, so she didn't get to see my introduction, but I'm super excited for next Wednesday, talk. So we will see you all on Coffee with Colleen next Wednesday. Thank you.